Tonight, big spending and growing deficits. The Liberals unveil their platform.
We will make life more affordable.
The pitch, the price, and the politics. Why there's no plan to balance the books. Our War Room panel is standing by. The whistleblower will tell his story in the Trump impeachment inquiry. The alleged RCMP spy, what police found inside his home that left them stunned.
It's unbelievable.
Hackers are targeting e-transfers using your email, a go public investigation. This is The National. The Liberal Party unveiled its full pitch to Canadians today, promising billions of new spending for families, students, to fight climate change. No path to a balanced budget, but a promise of more economic growth. Expensive promises seem to be a hallmark of this election campaign, and we've made Sunday your destination for political coverage to sort out just what the parties are offering, what it could mean for you. We'll hear from voters and backroom strategists and set you up for the big week ahead. So let's start with what's in the Liberal platform, the big promises, and the plan to pay for them. Katie Simpson walks us through it.
Deficits be damned. Justin Trudeau plans to spend and spend big, saying it improves people's lives and fuels the economy. And he's banking on Canadians feeling the exact same way. The Liberal platform outlines nearly 50 new or expanded investments. It includes a pledge to increase post-secondary education grants by $1,200 and to give some students more time to pay back loans. There's also tens of millions of dollars in promised funding for big cities to fight gun violence.
The Liberal government makes the choice to invest in Canadians, but to do so in a responsible way.
To cover some of the new spending, the Liberals say they would introduce taxes on digital giants, including Google, Amazon, Netflix, and Facebook. And it would adopt a 10% luxury tax on high-priced vehicles, boats, and aircrafts. But these additional revenues do not get the Liberals anywhere near a balanced budget.
The Conservatives are the ones obsessed with balancing the budget on the backs of services offered to Canadians.
Trudeau is trying to use this as a wedge issue against Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, who has promised to balance the budget in 5 years. The Liberals claim the only way to make that happen is through service cuts, pointing to examples from Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
Doug Ford said that not a single person would lose their job to pay for his massive cuts. Well, tell that to the 10,000 Ontario teachers who are losing their jobs.
Social wedge issues are also sprinkled throughout the platform, hinting at key announcements still to come, like criminalizing gay conversion therapy and new regulations to remove online hate speech. Trudeau will spend the next 24 hours here in Toronto, but today's message is for the entire country. The Liberals hope spending is the right move for the economy and for another mandate. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so that's the Liberal pitch. Now here's David Cochrane with a look at the price.
There was a time when balancing the budget was a core principle for the Liberals. This is not that time.
The critical requirement in the Canadian economy at the moment is to sustain more and more economic growth.
So that means more and more spending, and this platform adds billions to the debt. The Parliamentary Budget Officer projected the deficit would decline to about $11 billion by the end of the next government's mandate. The Liberal plan would blow through those projections with no deficit smaller than $21 billion, projecting combined deficits of $94 billion during a second Liberal term.
Far from their original promise of balancing the budget this year, Trudeau now says Canada will literally go on adding debt every year forever.
Well, not forever, but for at least another 4 years, which the Conservatives don't like, but the experts don't mind.
I think this is a targeted, modest package that is fiscally sustainable.
Sustainable because those eye-popping deficits are small in the context of the Canadian economy and fund programs or tax cuts that should boost growth.
These are sustainable deficits. So they have a reasonably flat but still declining debt to GDP. And you know the measures are modest, and the tax The revenue collection is modest, but it's all baked into a plan that is fiscally sustainable in the long run.
The critical thing is your capacity to carry a level of debt in a sustainable and cost-effective way.
Sustainable now, but these deficits could get even bigger. Nowhere in this platform is there a firm price tag for a national pharmacare program. It's something the Liberals are promising to do, and something that at its cheapest will cost billions of dollars a year. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
Like all parts of the campaign, the decision on when to release a fully costed platform is highly calculated. The Liberals released their platform this week in part because this Wednesday, Trudeau will participate in his first leaders debate in French on the TVA network. But the party had also been criticized by opponents for not releasing the parliamentary budget officer's evaluation of their promises. This now dulls that criticism. The Green Party released its full platform last week. The Conservatives and the NDP's fully costed platforms are still to come. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer did not campaign today, but the NDP promised a measure to keep cities safer.
Gang violence is certainly a problem in a lot of urban centers across Canada. A lot of the experts are talking about how we can make investments directly in youth. We need to help out young people.
Jagmeet Singh said his government would spend $100 million over 5 years to try to keep young people out of criminal gangs. The money would fund after-school programs and youth drop-in centers. About 200 demonstrators showed up in Hamilton today ahead of Maxime Bernier's rally for his People's Party of Canada. They clashed with party supporters, and police led 2 people away in handcuffs. Not clear at this stage whether charges will be laid. From the blackface photo controversy to some pretty big promises, a lot has happened in the campaign over the past week or so. And by now, some of it, you would think, should start showing up in polling data. So have the numbers moved? Here's CBC News' poll analyst, Eric Grenier.
Rosie, we're at the halfway point of this campaign, and we really just haven't seen much movement in the polls. Let's look at the national polling averages from the poll tracker. Still a very tight race between the Conservatives and the Liberals at about 34% apiece, pretty much exactly where these two parties started this campaign when it was kicked off on September 11th. The New Democrats at about 14%, the Greens at 10%, the Bloc Québécois at 5%, and the People's Party at 3% in the averages. Again, not much movement, and that probably is good news for the Liberals because they do have a seat advantage because of a province like Ontario. So let's take a look at the Ontario numbers. We saw both Justin Trudeau and Maxime Bernier were in the province today. The Liberals have a lead over the Conservatives of about 5 points in the province. That can deliver them a lot of seats. The New Democrats trailing with 15% and the Greens at about 9%. Another important battleground, British Columbia. Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May were both there today. It's a race for that first place between Conservatives and the Liberals. The Conservatives have opened up a little bit of a lead over the Liberals in the province. The New Democrats have also opened up some space between them and the Greens for that third spot. A lot of fighting over seats on Vancouver Island for those two parties. Another important battleground, perhaps the one that is most decisive in this election, Quebec. So let's take a look at those numbers. There will be a debate, TVA debate, later on this week. The Liberals hold a lead in the province, but the Bloc Québécois has now moved into a race for second with the Conservatives. So Quebec's going to be pretty important in this campaign, and this debate this week could be when a lot of voters are going to be tuning in. So we'll keep an eye on these numbers.
Okay, so what do the parties need to do to move those poll numbers? Our Sunday political panel is here to talk debate prep, party platforms, and strategy shifts midway through the campaign. The War Room, coming up in about 15 minutes. To the U.S. now, and the latest on the impeachment inquiry. Donald Trump tweeting tonight demanding to meet his accuser. As Paul Hunter tells us, we may soon hear from that anonymous whistleblower at the center of the allegations that started it all.
If you think Donald Trump isn't worried about impeachment, consider this ad tweeted out by Trump this weekend.
They lost the election. Now they want to steal this one. Don't let them.
I can't believe we're talking about it.
And on U.S. talk shows this morning,
I think this whole thing is a sham.
Senator Lindsey Graham led a lineup of Republicans targeting Democrats for taking on Trump.
So I think this thing stinks.
Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani, himself implicated in the allegations against the president, said he'll cooperate with the inquiry only if Trump says so.
If he decides that he wants me to testify, of course I'll testify.
And on the key allegation that Trump pressured the president of Ukraine to find dirt on Trump rival Joe Biden for Trump's own political benefit.
If you read the 7-page Little Nancy Drew novel that the whistleblower put together, it drips with condescension, righteous indignation, and contempt for the president. It's also ludicrous on its face.
But as demonstrators shouted impeach at Trump's motorcade this weekend and new polls signaled growing support for impeachment broadly, word on Capitol Hill is that testimony from the still unidentified whistleblower will be very soon, and that all of it is now moving, quote, expeditiously.
We want to do this as urgently as possible. We also recognize, though, the gravity of this situation and that it's going to take some time to get the full facts and be able to flesh them out.
The president tonight pushing back in tweet after tweet, saying Adam Schiff should be questioned for blatant, sinister lies, calling it fraud and treason. His accusers suggested the president a spy, and Democrats, he said, are lying and cheating like never before. Dangerous, he said.
Now to a very different kind of battle, the ugly pitched street fights that have paralyzed Hong Kong for the past 17 weeks. Our Sasha Petrusik was in those streets today.
Protesters were barely out of the Hong Kong subway station, yet round after round of tear gas was already flying at them. This was unusually aggressive for the police, targeting a protest they declared illegal. But if it was meant to discourage, it didn't work. Such is the anger at the Hong Kong government over ignored demands for more democracy and an inquiry into police brutality.
The government didn't do anything yet, so we have to continue to stand out.
17 weeks of this, backed by a community that's lost trust in the police. You are the real terrorists, this woman yells at officers. Undeterred, hundreds of thousands jammed the streets today until more gas.
Loads and loads of tear gas coming out. You can hear it popping. The protesters are trying to send it back, to throw it back, but that's not being very effective. You can see it's full in the air. There are many, many more people back there, but these are the front lines.
The front lines started throwing bricks at government offices. Then things got really ugly. Hundreds of officers suddenly burst from the building. More than 100 were arrested, but many more continued to battle police, setting street fires and attacking government supporters. It was perhaps the most violent day yet for these demonstrations, but it could get worse this week, as protesters plan to disrupt China's national holiday celebrations. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Hong Kong.
CBC News has learned more details about the investigation into Cameron Ortiz. Ortiz had access to classified data from Canada and from several allies. His career was all about secrets, and earlier this month, he was accused of stealing them. Olivia Stefanovic tells us what investigators found in his apartment was both stunning and potentially a real problem.
It may look like a run-of-the-mill condominium in Ottawa's Byward Market, but this could be the site of one of Canada's worst security breaches. It's the home address of Cameron Ortiz, the 47-year-old RCMP intelligence director who is alleged to have been preparing to leak secrets to a foreign entity or terrorist organization. Sources who have been briefed on the file tell CBC News that authorities were stunned at what they found when they searched Ortiz's home earlier this year. Dozens of computers, many of them encrypted, legal, but also a possible barrier for the RCMP.
It's going to take a long time.
This cybersecurity expert says investigators may never be able to crack the code, but depending on what kind of encryption is on the computers, there may be another way.
There's always going to be a backdoor. The question is who has access to that. And some countries, as I said, require that governments have access. If it's a software from one of those countries, that will be fairly easy to do. If not, that will then require, as I said, way more time and financial resources to actually access.
The RCMP won't comment on the ongoing investigation. Commissioner Brenda Lucki was warned about its inability to keep pace with encryption and organized crime online before she took the Mounties' top job last year. Now the case that has shaken the international intelligence community is due back in court on Friday. Olivia Stepanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Health Canada is looking into how a natural health product for teens is being marketed. It's called Viva Teen, and it's allowed to claim it can help with nervousness and restlessness, not with anxiety. But it did. And as Katie Nicholson explains, that plus confusion over how those words are used in general have some worried.
Meditation, one of the many coping strategies 16-year-old Erin Kendall has learned through her struggles with mental health.
I do some meditation, I do yoga, and I have those conversations and I speak out about how I'm feeling.
There's a new natural health product on the market that says it can help too. Viva Teen is made of vitamins and herbs. It was licensed by Health Canada in April for nervousness and or restlessness. Under the rules, it isn't allowed to say that it treats anxiety. But until Viva was contacted by CBC News, its website said it has been professionally formulated to help teens suffering from anxiety. Health Canada now confirms it's looking into how Viva is advertising the product. Viva founder Alain Roy says his product sticks to Health Canada's rules and he will follow any recommended changes.
Well, nervousness is a term that should be clear to a lot of people, I think, and restlessness and agitation and mental stress. I think people know what these words mean. Will they think that therefore it's a product for anxiety? I don't know, but that's not what it's for.
This Vancouver psychologist disagrees.
Yeah, I think it's confusing. Anxiety is my jam. This is what I do. I'm a clinician. I do research. And I'll say I'm nervous when I'm anxious. I will often use those terms interchangeably.
But some say the bigger problem is how natural health products are regulated.
I don't think that people should take comfort in the fact that Health Canada is merely looking into this because the entire regulatory regime is faulty. The science is tremendously weak around those products.
Erin Kendall wants to see more science too, like clinical trials, something Health Canada doesn't require for products like Viva Teen.
It could be a great idea and it could be very helpful, but again, it's not quite there yet.
Until she sees more evidence, Kendall is going to stick with what works for her. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
More stores are pulling a popular heartburn medication off their shelves after some were found to contain an impurity that is a probable human carcinogen, something that could cause cancer. This weekend, U.S. pharmacy giant CVS joined the list, saying it's suspending sales of rahidodine, drugs including those sold under the name Zantac. Health Canada says 5 companies have recalled their over-the-counter and prescription drugs here. We have more tonight on the risks of Interact e-transfers. More than 200 people have contacted our Go Public team saying the banks and Interact aren't helpful when fraudsters strike. Erica Johnson now with the problem and what a cybersecurity expert says should be done differently.
Sarman Sinani was working on a granite countertop for a client last March. He emailed her asking for a deposit. In May, she told him that weeks ago she'd e-transferred him almost $2,800. Sinani checked his email's trash folder and discovered a fraudster had hacked in, impersonated him in emails to his customer.
The hacker would alter my conversation to them and alter their conversation to me. It's unbelievable.
The fraudsters redirected the money to their own bank account. This ethical hacker helps companies improve their security. He says Interact depends on people keeping their email passwords secure to keep out fraudsters who've developed software that can lurk on thousands of computers at a time, searching for e-transfers.
So they could have something sitting there for months, and when the right keywords come through, the right email filters come through, bang, we've got ourselves a transfer. It's an arms race, unfortunately, like a giant game of cat and mouse.
Go Public continues to hear from people, more than 200 now, who say they've lost money doing e-transfer because their email got hacked. Many other countries don't rely on email. Payments are made bank to bank. Recently, the European Union went further, making it a requirement for all financial institutions to use two-factor authentication for all online banking, a system that only allows someone to log on to an account once they've received a code on a separate device or or an email at a different email address. This cybersecurity expert says it's time Canada brought in better protections.
The government needs to tell banks in no uncertain terms that the new baseline of security needs to be two-factor authentication. It's good for consumers and it's good for the banks themselves.
Both Interact and the bank say they do plenty of public education around email security, both saying they're not responsible when cyber thieves strike. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Coming up, some Canadians greeted this morning with a four-letter word, snow, and lots of it. The moment cracks out the shovels in parts of the West. Plus, lots more election coverage ahead, including what parties need to do to reach those undecided voters. Our Sunday political panel is standing by. Plus, their vote could decide the election. We check in with our 6 millennials. And Battleground 905. David Common talks affordability with 2 families in the vote-rich area.
My name is David Hurley.
My name is Shakir Chambers.
My name is Michael Hay.
I formerly worked for Harper's Prime Minister's office and for the Ontario government on Doug Ford's election campaign.
I ran 2 national campaigns for the Liberal Party under the leadership of Paul Martin.
In 2017, I was Jagmeet Singh's leadership campaign director.
This election will be divisive.
And the last one for at least 2 of the major party leaders.
This election will be historic.
Tomorrow marks the halfway mark of this campaign. But with the polls virtually unchanged, the final weeks are going to be crucial for the leaders to make their mark. And there will be more opportunities to try and reach voters directly, starting right here tomorrow. The National will host 4 federal leaders in face-to-face conversations with undecided voters. Then there are the debates. This week, the first debate for Justin Trudeau, the French language debate hosted by Quebec television network TVA, and then 2 more organized by the Debates Commission the week after. The leaders will try to capitalize on those opportunities and sway voters. So what are the risks and rewards to these high-stake moments? Okay, let's bring in our Sunday War Room friends, David, Shakir, and Michael. Okay, so I want to start with the platform release from the Liberals, because that's also a moment where you can sort of get people to look at you again, galvanize support, show differences. How important is the timing of the release of a platform? And the Greens and the Liberals are the only ones who have released a fully costed platform. Do you want to start, Shakir? How important is that?
I think timing does matter, but it matters in the sense of when you put your platform out there, people are going to look at it, probably scroll through your promises, see what you're going to deliver on. But for the average voter, are they going to remember hundreds of promises? Probably not, right? They're going to pick out 5 or 6 key things.
Sure.
I think when you look at the party that doesn't have their platform out, the Conservatives, there's also a strategy behind keep rolling out these policies and get maximum media coverage for that. So I think it can go either way, really.
Yeah, I've remembered campaigns I've covered where it was the last thing they did. So there's no right or wrong answer to this, probably.
It's all strategic. It's all, what does your campaign need at any given point? In 1984, Brian Mulroney did not release the costing of his platform until just days before the election, because they were winning big and the media were already into they're winning big part of the cycle, and they didn't want to interject anything possibly controversial into that. I myself, in campaigns I've been involved in, have held platforms back just in case we needed something else in it and didn't want to seal it off. I think at a minimum, you have to wait until you've had a chance to announce your signature initiatives, because they're old news once you put out the platform.
Yeah, and the NDP has put out their whole platform in terms of content, but not all the numbers.
Well, I think, first of all, putting out the whole platform in June, like a 110-page platform by the NDP, was because they had a new leader.
Right.
And they needed to introduce him and the party to Canadians as soon as possible to kind of get out there and get him out there. And then they've continued to roll out planks of that platform to get news and to get media coverage, as Shakir said the Conservatives are doing.
Yeah, which I guess builds up interest over time, particularly if you're dealing with a leader who's not as well known, fair to say. Okay, so how about these sort of big high-profile events, the one we're hosting this week, or one-on-one interviews that are done by other journalists, and not why do you do them? We know why they do them, but how do you use them to your advantage, and what are the risks of doing them? Particularly the thing we're doing, which is these undecided voters. I have, who knows how it's going to go. There is an inherent risk in that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think when you're looking at a debate situation, as you know, if you're the incumbent, it's a really tough, risky proposition for you, right? Because everyone's attacking you from all sides. You're running on your record. You have to defend certain things. People are putting out your flaws. But when you go to like a town hall situation, I actually think Mr. Trudeau is very well suited for those situations. If you look at the blackface stuff, what do? They canceled a rally and had a town hall. He's very good at conveying emotion in those situations. So I think it depends on your leader's personality, but ultimately it's about how you can benefit yourself and move your agenda forward by connecting and conveying your thoughts to voters.
What would you say is the best platform from Andrew Scheer? From your perspective, where does he perform best?
I think Andrew Scheer does very well behind a podium. So I would say in the debates, he's very good at staying on his message, holding Trudeau accountable for certain things that have gone wrong in the past 4 years. But I also think a town hall is a good opportunity for him to convey a certain side of him that maybe voters haven't seen, or that they want to know, does he have this kind of emotion to push forward? Yeah,
I wonder if he shouldn't do more of them. I know that they have a strategy right now of going to pubs and sort of just mixing with small groups of people. But I wonder, I know him a little bit, and he is a fairly warm person. But you don't get a lot of that. So I wonder if they should be doing more of the kinds of thing they're going to do here this week.
I think their tour has been very sterile from that perspective, and I think they could do more in their tour to show off his warmth and show him interacting with more people. I think in terms of these things, though, they're all high risk.
Sure.
They're super high risk, and every campaign is much more focused on the downside risk than on the upside opportunity of all of these things. I think from campaign managers' points of view, if we could outlaw debates, we would, because they're so unpredictable, right? And there's the one thing in the campaign you have no. So. And your thing is particularly dangerous because they're ordinary people.
Yes.
Right? And these leaders are going to have to sit in front of these people and show empathy for their situation, real empathy, and people know whether you're faking it or not.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have to say something meaningful about what you're going to do to help them. Yeah. And that may not be an easy thing to do. In fact, I think the roughest interview Justin Trudeau may have had in his time as Prime Minister was something on the CBC right after the election when you brought a bunch of average Canadians in, and there was an unemployed guy from the Southwest, and there's not really an answer for that guy. And that makes it tough. Right.
Yeah, and the premise of that is sort of what we're playing off of too, this idea of real people. How do you think these kinds of things should be used, and what are the risks of them?
I think they're definitely a risk if you're a front runner in the race and you're ahead, because you have a lot more to lose than you have to gain. But if you are just a little bit behind, or you're one of the major parties but you're not up there, then you have a lot to gain by having just the right moment. Even if it doesn't move people who are all decided voters over to you, there's still a big chunk of undecided voters in Canada, and in one night and in one moment you can go up a couple points.
We'll talk more about debates next week, because the first one that I'm part of moderating is next Monday. Yeah. But this French language debate is the first time we will see Justin Trudeau in this campaign in this format. I would say he's the most proficient in French, certainly, and I wonder what is the advantage for him in this one as a first go out to try and convince people here in a debate.
Well, I think it's a huge advantage for him. It's also a huge advantage for the Bloc Québécois leader.
Yes.
And a much more difficult task for Mr. Singh and Mr. Scheer, not because they're not formidable debaters, and Elizabeth May, not because they're not formidable debaters in their own right, because of comfort in both the language and the culture.
Yes.
And this is part of what people don't understand, is that it's not just how well you speak French, it's whether Quebecers get a sense that you actually understand that culture and understand their point of view. And I think back to, for instance, we were talking about debate moments in '84, just before the bad English debate that Mr. Turner had, there was a French debate, and all the commentary was that he had done extremely well in the French debate. But if you looked at the parties that knew what the polling said, his support started to collapse in Quebec immediately after that debate, because people saw a starch English person speaking perfect French to Quebecers versus a genuine Quebecer in Brian Mulroney. This is a really tough challenge for the non-Quebecers in this debate.
I think that Jagmeet will actually perform incredibly well, because he's very charming and he's very open. And
his French is pretty good too, I must say.
Yes, his French is great, but I think even more importantly is that he's a type of person whose personality shines through, which is something we didn't see from Andrew Scheer in even the English debate. I would be looking at this debate this week and Mr. Trudeau and the Bloc, because I think as the CBC's poll tracker says, 1 point increase for the Bloc could represent 4 seats lost for the Liberals. So this is actually a very important debate for the Liberals.
What do you think, Scheer?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think at the end of the day, for someone like in Mr. Trudeau's position, they're not going to change a lot of minds in this debate, right? They can't really win a debate, right? But they can really derail their campaign or put their foot in their mouth in the debate, which can actually lead to losing seats or losing popular support. So on his end, it's very, very risky to be in this situation. For Mr. Scheer, as I said, most of the other leaders are going to hold him accountable for a lot of things, right? So they're going to try to poke holes in his record, and that's where he's going to be very vulnerable, because it's going to be hard to defend a lot of his positions when you're being attacked both on the right and on the left.
You don't think you can win a debate? You don't think Justin Trudeau could win a debate?
I don't think anyone that's watching at home is going to leave and say, yep, clearly Justin Trudeau was a victor in this debate. But I think people will say he held his own, or he did pretty well. But that
can be a win, you see. That can be a win. Most debates don't have a knockout punch, and most debates have people trying to sort through everything that they saw and come to a conclusion about who ought to be the best person out of that in the absence of a knockout blow. And if you are the incumbent, and you do, people know that you're going to get bombarded from both sides. If you handle that well, and if you look like you held your own, there's no knockout punch, you can be the winner of that.
So what does Scheer do then to define himself? Because I think he would admit that he is not always super comfortable in French. He's good, but he's not always super comfortable. How would he, do you think, approach?
I think for him, it's just continuing to drive home that key narrative, right? Like the ballot's question is going to be around the affordability issues. He has to make sure he has a clear, competent, cohesive plan of how he's going to address a wide range of issues that you can fit under that kind of high-level banner, right?
Are any of you surprised that we are still this close in the polls with the Conservatives and the Liberals, and even the NDP and the Greens seem to be fighting for third spot? Is that normal that we would still be this close and no one's pulling apart yet?
It isn't normal. Normally we would see a fair bit more volatility in the numbers, and parties moving up and then having a bad day and falling back. And that none of that's really happening. There is a tremendous amount of stasis going on, but I think some things are becoming clear. The prairies are not going to move from the Conservatives, right? Atlantic Canada is not going to move in any significant way from the Liberals, and so Well,
Maybe.
most conservatives I know have relatively low expectations about how many seats they're going to come out of Atlantic Canada.
Just winning some back is pretty significant.
Sure, it would be helpful. But as usual, we are coming down to these two provinces in central Canada, plus British Columbia, which remains very volatile, which are where the battlegrounds are. And I would expect to see leaders spending more and more time in those three provinces.
I think if we look at the polling and we actually look at it at a regional level and a demographic level, we're starting to see things pull apart. But if we're looking at across Canada, it still looks very similar. So the NDP is actually pulling further ahead in British Columbia, for example, but not across the country in the same way. And then the same thing for the NDP and the Liberals and the Conservatives. It's basically a three-way race if you look at the 18 to 30 bracket, which is very interesting because that's a huge block of voters in this election.
Yeah, except you're not saying right now that the NDP is fighting for first place with the other two, are you?
I'm saying in the demographic 18 to 29.
That's good spin, though. Last word, Shakir.
Yeah, no, I mean,
left-handed.
I just have to agree with David's point. I think at the end of the day, this campaign's going to be won and lost Ontario, Quebec, Lower Mainland BC, right? And that's where the leaders are spending the most of their time.
Okay, so next week we'll talk more about debate as I get ready for one and enjoy the face-to-faces. We'll see what happens.
Will do.
We'll see you back here next week. As we mentioned at the top of this discussion, starting tomorrow in the National, a special television event. Face-to-face with four of the federal leaders, Justin Trudeau, Andrew Scheer, Elizabeth May, and Jagmeet Singh. We'll sit down with undecided voters with real concerns, real questions, all right here in the National studio. I'll be there too to make sure they're getting the answers they need to make a choice on Election Day. The National presents Face-to-Face with the federal leaders starting tomorrow with Justin Trudeau. You don't want to miss it. Now, just ahead, a lot of voters in this election are worried about the cost of living. You might be one of them. We're going to hear from two who are asking, are they better off now than they were 4 years ago? Stay with us.
Episode of 22 Minutes.
Sounds like you saw Doug Ford.
Impossible. Probably just a Bigfoot.
We're trying to be comic for you.
Tuesday at 8:30 on CBC and CBC Gem.
Ah, crap, forget I said all that.
Always a pleasure to be in the GTA.
It is so great to be back here in Markham.
We've got an incredible team of Brampton, New Democratic MP candidates.
The area surrounding Toronto, known by its area code, the 905, has seen a lot of the federal leaders over the past 19 days. It's already one of the most visited battlegrounds in the country, and that's because there are more than 30 seats up for grabs, more than some provinces. And voters there have a history of picking the party that wins. For many of them, and plenty other Canadians too, their big issue is affordability. David Common will be roaming through the 905 on election night as the results come in. A big question when many of those voters go to the polls, are they better off now than they were 4 years ago? David met two families to find out.
The 905 is vast, skyscrapers to suburbs, and in elections past, its ridings of ping-pong between parties, decided not always on issues, but on leaders. Mississauga's Aaron DeCoste and Maple's Aaron Burke see it quite differently.
What I like about Trudeau is that when he came into the office, he made a very conscious choice to choose people in his cabinet that reflects our diversity. And he is making progressive changes.
I've perceived Justin's time in office to be more, as kind of a figurehead, and it's all nice and good, and we go around the world and we dance in India.
My first thing is no conservative. I think they represent a very narrow, middle class, typically white, usually male focused.
I kind of principally believe that there's like waste and there's abuse and so forth within the spending end of government, and why we're taxed that way and where those tax dollars are allocated and how they're spent.
There you have it. Along with personality is the question of affordability, as 905ers increasingly feel the financial squeeze.
It's everywhere. It's at the pump. It's at the grocery store. It's at it's from my paycheck. You're anywhere from 25 to 48% of your money, okay, is out the door to taxes before you get your check.
And there's a question being asked.
But am I any further ahead than I was 4 years ago? No.
I think we're good. I think we also come from a level of comfort that when you have governments that may cut subsidies to daycare, other things. I have insurance through my job. My husband has insurance. There's a lot of things that even if cuts are made, we're okay.
Individual incomes in the 905 vary widely. Oakville North's median much higher than Markham Thornhill's. Back when the Liberals were elected in 2015, the median for the region was around $34,000. 2 years later, that income was up 4.8%, though taxes were eating into slightly more of it, pulling that increase down to 4.6%.
And then on top of that, gas cost me more, and electricity cost me more, and water cost me more, and property taxes cost me more, and school cost me more, and clothes cost me more, and these cost me more.
This is also the land of commuters. Suburban 905ers spend an average 32 minutes to get to work by car, more than 60 if they use transit.
So now on top of all that, you want to give me the carbon tax when China and India make up 60% of global pollution? Like, how is me paying $3 more for a tank of gas going to impact that?
Erin drives to work too and isn't convinced by the carbon tax either, but figures doing something is better than nothing. For her, across the spectrum of issues, it's not about cutting taxes, but about protecting programs.
But my point is that public education and healthcare under a conservative government always comes under attack because they view that as a liability, and they try to lure Canadians away with tax incentives for private schools or rebates for healthcare, rebates for education. And so definitely education and healthcare are my main concerns.
So affordability can mean different things to different people. For one, fighting waste and axing taxes, keeping programs intact, all under the umbrella of keeping life's costs manageable. David Common, CBC News in the 905.
So this issue of affordability is also an election issue for millennials, but this week it wasn't the only one that got their attention.
Saw some attention on the environment.
The universal pharmacare, gun control.
Did our 6 undecided hear anything to sway their votes? That's coming up.
I guess the sausages that Nona makes is a bit like the Macarena my Aunt Pam does at a family wedding. It needs a lot of white wine to be really good.
Still Standing, Tuesday at 8 on CBC and CBC Gem.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, Dr. Jen Gunter, the OBGYN, taking on what she calls the wellness industrial complex, one jade egg at a time. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
They've been front and center in so many of the campaign stops and the promises so far, and for good reason. Millennials hold power in this federal election. As the biggest voting bloc, they could decide the outcome. But these 6 are still undecided. We're going to follow them as they follow the campaigning, weighing what party leaders are saying and not saying to try to win their votes.
This week we heard a lot from the various
party leaders about, very concrete ideas.
Focused on climate change policies.
Saw some attention on the environment.
Some parts of it has been uninspiring.
But once again, this week didn't really have any vision for where our country's going to go. Hi, I'm Christian Hebert.
My name is Ivan J. White.
I'll be voting from the Yukon riding.
Vancouver Centre.
Fort York, Spadina.
It's Emily from the Lex St. Louis riding. When it comes to climate change this week, I'm not very convinced with the Conservative Party's approach, which is essentially their green tech investment incentives. If we want to reach our Paris Agreement, the Conservative Party is going to have to bring more substance to the table.
What I'm not hearing a lot about is talks of a just transition to a cleaner and greener economy, particularly focus on those provinces or regions where natural resources is a big part of the economy.
It's disappointing that we can't divorce money from environment. What if it was possible to place our existing resources into clean renewable technologies and let our children argue about climate change?
What's been kind of disappointing to see in this week has been the lackluster response from party leaders against the government of Quebec's Bill 21, which is essentially state-sponsored discrimination against those who wear religious symbols.
I was quite put off by the fact that Jagmeet Singh said that if he were elected, he would uphold that law.
For him not to take as strong of a stance as I expected him against Bill 21 was a bit of a disappointment.
I was happy to see that Justin Trudeau announced that the first-time homebuyers plan would increase the maximum house price that you could, qualify for that plan.
Andrew Scheer put forward the possibility of lowering the stress test for obtaining a mortgage. It's a small enough issue, it wouldn't win my vote.
The campaign has been pretty shallow in the world of agriculture. None of the parties really showed a vision for agriculture, despite the importance of it to our country's GDP. There was no talk of how to improve access to markets and trade barriers.
I do think that the universal pharmacare that the Liberal Party and the NDP is putting out is a great initiative. We need a system change, not just looking at policies that can fill in the gaps. Justin also got up this week and spoke about gun control. Hearing him talk about the buyback program was really just frustrating. I mean, anybody that legally bought a gun and is going to hand it back on request is probably not a criminal.
I will say that I will not be voting for a party that does not have a comprehensive climate action plan.
All of those policies and all those platforms don't mean anything if we have a party and a leader whose actions don't align with their words. It's pretty much between Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau.
At some point in time, we'd like to see a vision for our country.
I remain undecided.
Am I any closer to figuring out who I'm going to vote for in the upcoming federal election? Not quite, but we still have a lot more time to go.
See, I feel like they're getting somewhere. Coming up, if you're somewhere suffering through a little cloud and rain this Sunday, stick around. Parts of Western Canada woke up to this. Now don't you feel better? Our moment is next.
She still looks 18.
An old case.
How is this possible? She disappeared 12 years ago and hasn't aged a day.
Defies time.
Eternal Youth Machine invented.
Murdoch Mysteries. Monday on CBC and CBC Gem.
So apparently snow in late September, not unusual for Alberta, but perhaps not this much. The southwest corner of the province has seen a lot of snow, as much as a meter by tomorrow. We spoke to some southern Albertans who are hunkered down, waiting out the storm, and that is our moment of the day.
I just opened the door this morning, and I've got 3 kittens that are about a year old, and they love to go outside and play. And so he was getting ready to go outside and was just confronted with like just a whole wall of snow. We've got like big heavy snowflakes coming down, and it's almost coming down horizontally.
It looks like a biblical snowstorm. I'm looking out westwards towards the Rocky Mountains, which are only 1 kilometer away, and I cannot see them.
Oh, it's coming down.
My sheep.
We're just a small farm. We have about 35 sheep, donkey. Surprise storms in Alberta, Canada are always going to happen, but a surprise storm of this magnitude is not normal.
Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's acceptable, Alberta. I'm from Winnipeg, and I wouldn't put up with that. That's the National for this Sunday, September 29th. Have a good night.